Okay, everyone, find your seats. We'll get going. Do it again. Okay, so welcome, everybody. I'm going to call this meeting to order. So I'm just going to start off with giving some instructions, basic things, and then we'll get underway. So one thing is the clipboard, which is right over there, is working its way around the room. So whenever it comes to you, we just want you to write down your name. We're not looking for signatures. You're not signing up for anything. It's just yeah, right. You might have to check your bank account later. But this is just to track attendance, literally. So just sign it, pass it along. Also, the agenda for today. I'm going to split up and let you guys pass around. It's relatively short, but we'll try to get through things in a timely manner today. Also, you have received Ken's report, the treasurer's report. So I'm just asking you to just put that down for now because we're going to have plenty of time to look at it later. Let's pay attention to these first things first. Also, other documents on the offertory table there are the 2023 annual meeting minutes as well as Beth Brock's board bio. So if you didn't get a chance to look at those, we'll be referring to them today. You can take a quick look back there. And finally, this is a meeting for members and friends of the church, but remember that only members are allowed to vote. So if you are not a member, thank you for being with us, and please stay. But just when the time comes for voting, I just ask you to hold your peace during those moments. All right, so I think that covers everything. We're going to get started now with a reading from the Word. Reading from the Gospel of Luke, chapter 21, the first 4 verses. Then he looked up and saw the rich putting their gifts into the treasury, and he saw also a certain poor widow putting in 2 mites. So he said, "Truly I say to you that this poor widow has put in more than all. For all these out of their abundance have put in offerings for God, but she out of her poverty has put in all the livelihood that she has." That's it. Nice, short, simple reading. The widow put in a very small amount of money, but the Lord says she put in more than anyone else did. Now, we're going to be talking about money today. I mean, this reading is not about the actual amount that she put in, but there are good teachings in doctrine that talk about the wealth of affection. Some of the angels are talking about the widow in this story and explaining how she, out of affection, poured in everything about her life. All the love she had, she put into those 2 little mites, whereas everyone else, out of their abundance, they put in only just a little bit. So the comparison here is with the affection, not so much as to riches. And I think it's just a really useful way to notice how the little things that all you do really go a long, far way. Some of them go unnoticed, but we really couldn't be the same without them. And I think you'll notice that especially when we get to the thank you section of the agenda today, of the meeting. So that's just a nice thing to keep in mind. Little actions, when they're full of affection, are huge. Never underestimate the power of small actions and your contributions to the church. Okay, so let's move on. We're going to the 2023 annual meeting minutes now. They were sent out by email earlier this week. They were posted on the bulletin board all throughout last year, and they are now at the back of the table, so everyone has had a chance to look them over. If there are any questions or comments on the 2023 minutes, now is the time to bring them up. If no comments or questions, then someone can make a motion to approve them. Thank you, Sherry. Thank you, Sheila. Okay, so all in favor of approving the 2023 annual meeting minutes, say aye. Any opposed, say nay. Great, thank you very much. Thank you, Peggy. So now we get on to the fun part. We're going to call up Ken Crunland. He's going to tell you his 2 cents with the report, which actually has 2 cents on the front. So come on up, Ken. Oh, and just remember, if you're speaking in the microphone, just speak into it. You don't have to be too close.
It's not the same one, though. two separate ones. They're separate cents. And two of them. First, let me thank you for all the contributions to the offertory and other contributions you made throughout the year and the other ways you support the church. It's very helpful. This church, like all organizations, can't survive without the help of its members, like any other organization. I prepared a concise 2-page report, 3-page with the 2 cents, in the same format as last year, which was handed out. And I guess there were plenty of copies. I think I have some extras. It consists of a statement of financial position, a balance sheet as of June 30th, 24, that is at the end of our fiscal year, and a statement of financial activities for the year then ended with prior year results for comparison. Same format as last year. I'd like to go through the presentation and at the conclusion take any questions you might have about the finances of the church. So, going to the first statement, the statement of financial position shows the assets that are owned by the church and the liabilities owed by the church. 2 columns. One shows how we stood at the end of June 24, and June 23 is there for comparison. So starting at the top, we have cash in the operating accounts of $136,563, as compared to $124 the year before. In the capital improvement fund, we have $36,347, and that is unencumbered or unspoken for at the moment. And in that same fund, we're holding $35,364 of grant money that is earmarked, most of which is for the siding, which is, you can see, is starting. If you look at the dumpster and the pile of stuff out front, or out back there. I think of that 35,000, 23,000 and change is set aside for siding, and we have to match some of that to pay the total bill. In addition to cash, we had $1,805 in cost of grant and the waste cards on hand. Our building and equipment and the land and the whole caboodle had a cost of $1,165,000, which didn't change because anything that was done is either a replacement or a repair, written off as a repair. So nothing was added to it. The endowment money that is working for this church totals this is a market value, not cost, of $966,491. That's up considerably from the year before, and that's totally a market change. We didn't add anything to it. So we have total assets of $2,342,000 and change. Under liabilities, we still owe the general church $71,845 in the mortgage. We pay $10,020 off each year. And so we've got a few years to go. And the deferred revenue is the grant money that's not yet spent and matches the cash up top. And payroll and other liabilities are negligible, $129. Gives us with a net worth of $2,234,667. Those are the highlights for that page. We go to the last page. And we have the statement of activities showing the receipts and disbursements for the year, for this past year and the year before for comparison. And for this year, just passed, it shows the actual against the budget. So again, starting at the top of the receipts, the offertory is $19,854. Those are the basket offerings. Less than budget, more than last year. Other operating contributions are $73,631, more than budget, more than last year. Very good. And capital contributions, again, are a little more than budget, $3,475, and more than last year. Our investment and endowment income, mostly endowment, is $45,763, and that's pretty much on target with the budget, and a couple thousand more than the year before. Activity and fundraiser income of $7,587. Again, more than budget, more than the year before. Rent income, $2,195, which is about on budget and similar to last year. So we have total operating receipts of $152,505, which is higher than budget, higher than last year. In the operating disbursements, we paid out $129,701 in total, and the breakdown is facility costs, $23,271. That's the building insurance and anything having to do with the plant itself, utilities, that kind of thing. Real estate taxes, $5,861. That's generally on the manse property, building and land that was allocated to the manse, and the church is tax-free. So that's all that covers. Salary costs, $89,674, and it's about on budget, and it's up from last year based on the scale that ministers get from the general church, because we just reimburse them. And other operating expenses were $10,895, and that was higher because of two things in particular. The tree removal, a big oak tree over here had to be removed, and some other things. And so there were some manse repairs. They were expensive. So if you the net from the operating standpoint left us a plus of $22,804, and then unbudgeted things off balance sheet, you might say. We had received $51,500 in grants. We paid out $11,997 in grant expenses. We cashed in $4,157 of your food cards and paid off some small liabilities and the mortgage for $10,020. Left us a net increase in cash for the year of $55,765. So a lot of that is in the grant money that we're holding, and some increase in the budget items, the operating items. Now, I guess that's a good time for questions. If anybody has a question.
An amount of money for the water sewer hookup. Where does that show up in your sheet?
It's acting as an endowment. That's how it was always put, and it's in the endowment total. But we can, that is part that we can spend. Most of the endowment we can't spend, we just get the income from it. But that was specifically set aside by Bob Youngie originally. And it has grown considerably. So
two questions. The first question I would like to present to the whole group. Do we feel that the Giant cards and the Weiss cards are worth continuing in the following year? I went from the treasurer's point of view. Is it worthwhile?
Well, you were asking for the whole congregation.
Well, I mean,
Who wants to put up their hand and say yes?
Yes, it's worth it.
Yeah.
Is it worth it?
Well, you can't tell from this how much income we actually get from the sale of the car.
Still, it says how much.
from my point of view is the person who sells it, and there's many a week that we don't sell any or a small quantity, and that's where my question is coming from. If so few people are participating in the program anymore, is it worth continuing?
We received about $1,400 in the last year, $1,400 in commissions alone.
Okay.
I would say that's not a whole lot of money, but it's for doing nothing, basically. I mean, ordering the cards and keeping track of the numbers, so
Except she's saying people have to sit there and sell
we
them.
have to sit by a table.
I
It's
It's
difficult.
doing nothing.
Very difficult. Yeah, okay.
And I won't go without taking a Giant card. I won't go to Giant without it.
You won't even come to church for that.
No.
So
Not
here's
here,
the worthwhile.
to the Giant, with the Giant card. I make sure I always have them. I brought my checkbook today because I have one left. I'm like, I better buy some.
What I'd like to say specifically to something like the Giant cards, years ago, when I was treasurer of an organization, we used to put out some graphs showing just the largest contribution to the smallest one. And what we did one year is invite people to just think about your contribution in dollars versus this graph. And most organizations, and I think you'd agree with this, have to take contributions, take many small contributions and a few large ones. So just figure out what you put out every year compared to $1,400. So that's a very valuable contributor,
Yeah,
in my opinion.
I agree. I
I think we should continue.
think it's very worthwhile.
It's sort of, we just read about the mite.
$1,400 is a large money.
It's a big mite, yes. It's
I
mighty
have a
mite.
second question, and this is specifically for just you. How many more years do we have on our mortgage?
7,
Thank you.
roughly.
And that's a bigger money.
You want to pay it off?
It's not gonna happen.
But it is an interest-free loan, correct?
That is correct.
So we,
Can't beat the interest rate.
right,
Don't pay it on.
Okay?
You need,
Everybody happy? We got couple other notes I want to make. I want to recognize Bruce Fuller, who for many years has been an assistant to me for making deposits and keeping track of the contributions and sending out letters at the end of the year for thank yous and tax purposes. But he quit on me. Thanks, and as of January 1st, Sig Sonneson has taken over, and he's doing a fine job and very helpful. And a little misunderstanding between not between us, but between our computer systems. We're ironing it out. So thank you, Sig. forward to this fiscal year. I just want to note that contributions for this first quarter of this year, ending September 30th, in offertory and other contributions are short of $4,000 of last year. And some of you, I recognize, have given some very healthy contributions. And like the woman that we just spoke about that gave all, and Ken talked about the small contributions. They're very helpful. The more there are, the more they stack up and make big contributions. But we are running a little low as compared to last year and the budget this year. But this church does have all the money it needs. Problem is, it's all in your pockets. So that's my report, and I think Ryan's going to call for a vote on it.
Yep.
And let me remind you that anybody that votes no to accepting this report is the next treasurer.
But we say thank you for doing it.
All right, motions, anyone?
Move to accept the treasurer's report.
Second.
Thank you, Michael and Elaine. So all in favor of approving Ken's report, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. Drum roll, please. Sorry, Ken.
You're still on.
Okay, thank you very much, Ken.
You're welcome.
So we're on our way now. Let's move on to our next item, number 5, pastor's report. This is really just a chance for me to talk about anything I feel like talking about, really. So, kids. I've raised kids. All of you have raised kids before, and one of the many challenges of raising kids is trying to feed them and get them to eat. And so one of the things I always kept running into was piling food on the plate, putting in front of them, and then they would take maybe 1 or 2 bites if you're complaining about being hungry all day. 1 or 2 bites later, I'm full, I'm done, and they go off and play, and then 15 minutes later, they're hungry again, right? So I was like, how do you get them to eat? And I found a trick, which is actually put less food on their plate. You put a lot less food on their plate, there's more plate than there is food. They ended up eating more than if there was tons of food on their plate. And I noticed the same with me, too. Whenever I go to a restaurant, I order a plate, and it comes with this heaping mound of food on it, I get intimidated, and I feel my appetite start to diminish. Whereas if it's a small, sizable amount, then all right, I can easily take care of this. Right? So less is more, right? It works the same way with information. Too much information versus a little information. So I'd like to show you a sign now, and you only have 3 seconds to read it, okay? Okay? Now I'm going to show you a second sign. Again, only 3 seconds to read it. Okay. So let me put these two up side by side, and you can obviously tell which one has more information on it. This one. And I don't know how many of you actually read anything of this one. You probably may have started, but I'm sure you didn't remember much. But I'm sure you all remember this one. No problem. And if you're going to remember anything at all, it's going to be this versus this, right? Now, this is just a proof that less is more, right? Even though it's not a lot, you'll remember this. You have given you something to think about and contemplate. And you can know what your own thoughts are on this topic. And if you're interested to learn more, then I'll tell you more about it, right? So the only reason why I gave you 3 seconds is because 3 seconds is, on average, how much time an average person is willing to afford giving their attention to something new. 3 seconds is how much time you have. If you go over that, then they start to lose attention. So, talking about our church. That's the name of the topic. And you might have noticed that the spelling of church on the item is capital C versus lowercase c. And that is actually a doctrinal distinction. In the doctrine, whenever you come across church with a capital C, it's referring to the church as to its doctrine, the teachings, the understanding of the word, and so on. Whereas lowercase c is more about an organization, institution like we have here. So we're talking about our church, capital C. And when you're talking about our church to someone, where do you even begin? Where do you even start? Because we have 30 plus volumes of doctrine that we just want to throw out there and give as much as possible to a person, but then you run into this problem, right? How much information do you want to give all at once? And do you even start with Swedenborg and the last coming, right, or the second coming? So talking about our church means we want to have short, concise, easy to say things that will get the message across in easy to understand language that they will remember. So now I'd like to introduce you to this, which some of you snagged already ahead of time. It's a little booklet that says Our Church, capital C, and underneath there it begins a quote, says, I like my church because, ... And on the inside, you have all sorts of statements and phrases that pretty much complete the sentence. So I like my church because it explains a lot about my own life. Boom. Or I like my church because it reminds me to feel the joy of another as your own. That is loving. Right? So you have all these little sound bites here, which are quick and easy to get across, full sentences, and if you say one of them, that's at least one idea that you got across. And each one takes 3 seconds to say. The best part about this is I did not write these. All right? I might have put 2 or 3 in there. The rest is all you. You wrote this. All right? Remember this? Okay? I basically put all your statements and transferred them into this little booklet. So now you have a collection of what you love about the religion. And if you're talking about the religion, you're talking about church with a capital C. When you talk about church with a capital C, you're talking about what's really at the core of everything we do here. And it reflects who we are as a church, lowercase c. Right? So this is something that you can take. I made lots of copies. You can take one when you go home, read it through. Each little post-it note is like one of these little sound bites, you know. It gets the idea across, like a little sign. It's a one-liner. And when I looked through at all your responses, especially when I wrote them up, I was really impressed with some of the things I saw here. I think a lot of this reflects how deeply impacted you all are with the teachings of our church, which is core and fundamental to everything we do. So take it home, enjoy, and I think you'll notice that a lot of them are true for you, even if you didn't write it. And they're all completely anonymous. So if you find one you didn't like, you can't go to Ray and say, why did you write that? Sorry, Ray, just picking on you. Okay? So they're ready to use, they're at your disposal, and just enjoy. Look through them, and this is a useful, easy way to talk about our church. So I think I'll pause there for now, and we'll continue a little later. For now, are there any questions for me? Okay? Well, thank you very much, everyone. Let's move along then on our agenda to the exciting part of our meeting, board elections. All right, so I want to explain just a couple of things before we actually get into voting. This year, actually no, earlier this year we had Susie Laidlaw, who was on the board, and she had to step down from the board because she and Alan moved to Colorado. She was in the middle of her elected term, so I think she had completed a year, and she was going into her second year when she moved earlier this year. So whenever a board member steps down before their term is up, then it's up to us to appoint someone from the society to fill in that term and complete it till the end of that term. It's an appointment, not an election. So I asked Ernie Glenn if he'd be willing to step in and complete Susie's term, and he has agreed and has been filling in her place as of May, I think, this year. And has been serving on the board ever since, and will continue to the end of Susie's term, which I believe is the end of next year, 25. At which point, then he can run again for election if he wants. So, since this is appointment only, all I need is a vote of affirmation. It's not necessarily yay or election in that sense. So just affirmation acknowledging that Ernie is now filling in for Susie. So someone can make a motion for that.
I affirm.
Thank you, Stephanie.
I'll second.
Thank you, Carol. All right, all in favor of affirming Ernie on board for Susie's term, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. Okay, welcome aboard officially, Ernie. Thank you. So now on to the actual election. So Beth Brock was our board member whose term was up this year, and she was the only member that was up, so we only have one position open, and she had already agreed to run again to fill that position. So we have one open position on the board and one person to fill that position. But however, for the sake of fairness, it is good that we open it up to everyone. Derek did make an announcement a couple weeks ago just to let everyone know that the board elections are coming up. If anyone's interested, let me know or let a board member know. We didn't hear from anybody, but I still would like to just offer the chance for anyone at this point, before we get to the election, that if there's someone that you feel would like to be on the board and they are present at the moment right here, you can nominate them. They just have to be here, they have to be a member of our church, and they have to consent to your nomination. And then we would go to a contested election, if that's the case. All right, so the chance for floor nominations begins now and will last for 10 seconds. Yes?
I nominate Les.
Les Alden. Okay. Les, do you consent to the nomination?
Let me flip a coin.
Is that a yes or no? Yes. Okay. This is a first. So, now we will go to a contested election. At this, I think we do need ballots at this point. I forgot to get them ready. Sue was usually the one who got them ready ahead of time.
Do we have blanks?
We just need little blank pieces of paper.
Yeah, is there anything back there?
Yeah, and I do think we have a small box of little pencils that we can use. Yes, Sherry?
Les, are you a member of this church? Of the Ivyland Church?
Yes. Okay. Ooh, pressure's on. All right, so we'll wait for those papers to come back and we'll do those elections.
Ryan,
Yes.
is there a clipboard of attendance going around?
Yeah, we didn't say
We
this.
haven't seen the clipboard to sign it.
Where is it? I think it's oh, okay. So not everyone got it yet.
Here's the pen.
And there's a pen. Would somebody be willing to count the ballots once we fill them out?
I will.
Okay, thank you, Sheila.
You hold
Yes.
up the cookie sign or
I just want to give them a chance. They might be out any time. We'll do the ballots, and then you can do your report, and then we'll do the results of the ballot.
These people probably need to.
Let me just go out there quickly and check.
would you like to sign that?
Put my name down too.
All right.
Anybody else over there?
Here. Yeah.
Is anybody
All
else
right.
on the side?
Thank you for putting that together.
This side,
This side,
this
yes.
side is desperate.
Are you desperate?
Okay, so Michael Evans is going to be passing around ballots. Peggy's bringing out little pencils. So when you get your ballot, write down one name, either Beth or Les, to serve on the next term.
But not me.
Not Beth. Sorry, Les. Yeah, Beth Brock, Les Alden. Yeah, write down those names, and then when you're done, I guess we'll have Michael go around and collect the completed ballots. Fold your ballot too when you're done.
Can I have that?
I should.
Paper's too big.
So, I have a question. Only members can vote?
Correct. Yes, only members can vote for. Who should get a ballot?
I gotta do that.
Yes, that was correct.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, you know you're not.
Completed?
Do you want it folded once or twice?
Once is fine.
I will do it.
The heat is on.
Yeah. When you count them all, just let me know how many. Oh, you remember. You can sign them afterwards.
Bowling your decision. Anybody else?
This is Terry. I'm signing with you.
Yes, just me.
Everybody. Oh, Derek, should you sign?
Yes, thank you.
All right, has everyone filled out their ballot? All right, are there any ballots here still? You're all good? Sheila's got them all. Okay. So at this point, we're going to move on. I'm going to call Sherry up. She's going to tell us all about the craft fair coming up, and then when I get the results, I'll give them to you later. So come on up, Sherry.
Got it. Oh, wait a minute, Gail.
I'm just not there yet.
Hi, everybody. Once again, we will be in the Black and Craft sales Friday before Thanksgiving and Saturday. We will be selling. We will be selling. No. No. We're closer.
It's not for you, it's
Okay,
for
you're
the,
gonna-
it's for the,
So we will be selling baked goods, and for those of you who contribute baked goods, please drop them off either at the church on the Friday at noon, and or bring them directly to the sale. If you're making cakes or brownies, we'd like you to put them in a clam. This is a clam, and it opens up like this. And you can put the price of the baked good on top. So we have this available, and we hope it makes things easier. Inside my clam is
A clam.
a yip. Now the yip is very useful. He's coming to the craft sale, and what he has for you today is price tags. So if you need price tags, please see me and the yips will give them to you.
Will you have suggested prices?
No, yes, if you have an idea of what you'd like, please,
No, I mean, will you have suggested prices like it for this?
no.
Okay.
The yip is good because he holds money for the month of change. He holds money for the offertory. He holds cookies and candies. So the yip will be at the sale, so be sure and pick one up. After the sale, we do need help with things, and I'm not sure where the sign-in sheet is, but I'll have one next week. We really need help taking the tables and the crafts to the sale and taking them from the sale back here to the church. We will be selling crafts at the Christmas, Songs of Christmas. We'll be selling them before the event and perhaps after the event. And we're converting the nursery room into a craft sale room. And then we will also be selling crafts the 3 Sundays before Christmas. So this was a very big fundraiser. Last year we raised over $4,000. We thank you. It was just little things that made the difference. We thank you all for contributing and being a part of it. And be sure and pick up your yip. Any questions? No, thank you.
Thank you, Sherry. Yeah, I have to say, this has been surprisingly one of the most effective fundraisers that we've had now in the past few years. $4,000, just like that. So, yeah, all the little things that you do come a long way. So thank you very much, Sherry, for arranging this. Thank you, everyone else, for making your contributions. All right, so I have results. Going back to the election. The tallies were counted. And so I have a count of 6 votes for Les and 20 votes for Beth. So I think Beth has it. Thank you all for voting. That's it, right? We don't need an or like a yay, nay, or anything. Yes?
Les, don't go away.
Yeah. I mean, I was going to say that. It doesn't count you out for good, all right? So you'll have plenty of opportunities in the years to come. But thank you. I think that was a very intense moment. We haven't had a contested election for years. And we handled it pretty well. So good job, everyone. Thank you, Michael and Sheila, for helping out as well. And congratulations, Beth. Welcome aboard again. Okay, so moving on to church grants and projects. We have some updates going on our current grant monies that we haven't spent yet. So I'm going to call up Ernie, who's going to give you a brief report on that.
Thanks, Ryan. So just following up on what Ken mentioned and the numbers were in his report. But having replaced Susie on the board, I'm updating the report she made last year at the annual meeting on this. As Ken mentioned, you might have seen some materials stacked out near the shed in the parking lot, which are to complete the almost 5-year initiative to replace the siding on the church. And a great amount of that expense is covered by a grant from the Glencairn Foundation. Also the contributions that people in the society made, which is required to receive these grants. So again, thank you all who helped support the siding. Rich Tate, who I'd like to thank for his involvement in organizing materials and the workers who are doing the siding project. He couldn't be here today, but he has kind of overseen it and tried to move it along. So that should all be finished within the next month or so, we hope. That's Rich's expectation. The other grant that we have received in recent years was from the Osborne Foundation. A great number of projects in the Nance were covered by the most recent Osborne grant. There is about $6,300, I believe, left, which could be used for an ongoing leak we have in the steeple area here. Or in the apparent event it may never rain again, we can
So far, so good.
It probably will, and that's something that we need to keep our eye on, and the board is keeping its eye on, and hopefully we'll be able to get that addressed soon. So those are the current grant projects we have. There are no plans at this point for any more capital improvements that would require applying for future grants, but that of course could change in the future as needs arise. So, thank you very much.
Thank you, Ernie. All right, no questions on that, then we can move on. I'm going to call Ken York up now. He's going to tell us about our water situation?
I think the water situation comes in a couple parts. Up there, Rich Tate and I have been chasing that problem for over 20 years. It's complicated. We all know we don't bottled water. I will tell you, first of all, what we know and what we don't know. What we know is evidenced by the water we're supposed to drink, which is supplied to us by the Navy, because our water is contaminated from the Navy. We had a contract, what we know is we had a contract to replace the water line from the street out here with the Warminster Water Authority. It was all set to go. Contractor came out, they did an assessment, and then I got a call that says, Warminster's not going to pay for it, the Navy will pay for it.
Wow.
It's the same pot of money. And the Navy has not contacted us. So about every 2 months I give them a call, and the last time was about 6 weeks ago. And the word is, they will reach out to us. My hand is out there. I don't know what the deal is. It's a bit complicated for us to get a hookup. It would have been easy if we just had one building. But the way our water works is the well is out here by the edge of the front parking lot. The water goes into the manse. We have filtration, water softening, and the like in the basement of the manse. And then the line splits. And one side feeds the manse, and the other side comes out from the manse underground under the middle of this building. And that's how this building is. The issue with Warminster was nobody wants to reuse the water line that's buried out here under the front parking lot because it's at least 60 years old. And if we were putting municipal water on that line and we had a leak, then we have a major issue. The other problem is that when this building was built, in their wisdom, they decided to bring the water under the building into the center of it. So we have no easy tap on the edge of the building to connect to. And that makes a lot of sense in that nobody knew how we were going to connect to municipal water whenever that was going to happen. So here's the other thing I know is I've met with our plumber. We have a game plan if we ever get a water line from the street to connect this building up. Probably not a huge amount of money. He and I probably do it together, the plumber and I. And we'll probably have to break a hole in the floor somewhere, whatever. But we need 2 water lines from the street, and one for the manse and one for this building, and we don't want to reuse this line out here. So that's sort of where we're at. What I'm hoping I will get a call sometime, or we'll get a letter from the Navy with a contract to meet with the contractor to run 2 lines, one straight to the manse and the other one to this building. It's not complicated, they just don't want to pay for it. It's probably going to be, my guess is it's $100,000 to $150,000 to do all that, which is why they don't want to jump in and pay for it. But somebody's got to get a hold of us, and I can't. I can call the contact that I have, and she says she has spoken to the Navy, and they will reach out to us, and that's what we're waiting on. Meanwhile, drink the bottled water. If we have too many bottles, please, case of water, $5, throw it in the churchy bank, take a jug home, pour that into your coffee pot. We'd be happy to have fewer jugs of water. We got quite a few in the room, but that's where we're at. And I am paying attention to it, but it's a bureaucracy, and I think it's all about money. It's cheaper for them to supply water to us than to shell out $150,000 for 2 connections. the Warminster came in here originally and thought, well, it's just one connection, and once they looked at it, they said, no, it has to be two, which makes a lot of sense. And we would get a brand new water line all the way from the street to this building. It's just too bad we don't have one. If worse comes to worse, I might try to negotiate with them, so can we share the cost of it? I pretty well have an idea of what, if our plumber did a lot of the piping, it's not a lot of money. It's just a roll of plastic water pipe. And dig a ditch and break a hole in the floor at the end of the building. It's not 100,000 if we had to put up some of the money. But I'll just keep you posted. That's where we're at. I would like to see it done before snow falls.
If we get snow.
We're now about 1 year into this water bottle thing, so that doesn't seem to have any effect on them. They don't seem to care.
Thank you again. Yeah, don't call us, we'll call you. Don't you love when they say that? Okay, we're almost done. On to the next item, the power of invitation. I'm going to talk a little bit more now again. So this is the same item that was on last year's agenda. We talked about the same thing last year. I just kept it on because it is an effective tool for church growth. You guys remember the surveys that I sent out about a year ago? One survey question was, why do you like coming to Ivyland? And you all filled it out, and you gave really overwhelming positive responses. And the trend in all those responses was you like coming here because of the warm, friendly atmosphere and the meaningful messages on Sundays, something to that effect. They were great. So then I sent out another survey, which was what needs to change at Ivyland. And as expected, I got varying responses from you all. No two were alike, really. And some of them were really practical. Like, can we make better accommodation here in the chapel for wheelchairs? Or can we get online people more involved in our church? But there was not a lot of consistency in the responses. But more or less, the theme was we need more people. All right, and I think everyone agrees with that. We need more people, more attendance, more members, especially families with little kids. And there was at least two of you who said something to the effect that we should be more comfortable inviting people to church. Like, let's make this a regular, normal thing. So then you think about that. Think about all your connections, each one of you with your own individual connections. Add them all up. You have 100 or so people who are potentially church members. And people are more likely to come to a service if there's somebody they already know who's here already. So sure, let's invite people to church, right? But now the challenge is, what do you say? How do you invite somebody? You don't really go up to them and say, hey, come to church, right? Really, you have to wait for the opportunity to come to say something, and you want to say the right thing. And then what do you say then? If only there was a collection of phrases and things that we could say that we could just bring. Oh, look what I found. Right? You caught on, right? So there you go. These opportunities now are given to you thanks to your phrases that you wrote. It's like playing mini golf. You know how to hit the ball through the windmill blades that are spinning? You have a small 3-second window of opportunity to get the ball through. 3 seconds. This is how much it takes to say one of those sentences and to get the ball through. Now, you never know when the opportunity will come, but at least this time, you won't be at a shortage of words, pretty much, if you have these things at your disposal. If you say something and they are interested, then you can say another one. Give them another appetizer, you know. If they're really then interested, then you can expand more on the reasons why you like to come into church, which were your survey responses from last year. Right? Get more into it then at that point. But if you want, you can just give them the entire booklet. Right? Just let them read the testimonials that you guys have written, and the best thing is that on the back there's contact information for our church. Any way they want to get in touch with us, they can find out. All right? So it should be really simple, but it's just nice that we have lots of means and lots of tools at your disposal. You can use the booklet. You have a better chance of reaching people when you have more options. You have the booklet. You have the websites, Facebook, YouTube, our Ivyland.org site. as well as, yeah, that was it for online stuff. But all these things take minimal time to just get out there and send. It's really, really easy to just get the word out because church growth is, after all, a group effort. All right, so basically that's the idea. The real idea of this talk now is just be comfortable with the idea of invitation. The tools are available to you, and you can use them. Just get the ball through the windmill blades is really what it's all about. So that's it. Any questions for me at this time before we wrap things up? Yes?
Ryan, I don't have a question, but in response to the thing about inviting people,
Yep.
I invited somebody who's a friend from Kempton just to come to church. We have a Sunday set up where she's going to come, and I'm going to just, we could invite other people in other parts of our church, maybe someone who's going to be here from out of town or family member who doesn't go to church much in person. So that might be a starting place.
Yep, absolutely. People that you know. That's why I talk about connections, right?
I was
So yeah.
thinking you meant outside people.
Well, those two, but family members, friends, people that you have in contact with on a regular basis. So those are good starting points. And they may or may not come, but at least you got the message out there. And that's something that they'll be able to think about. And who knows, maybe they'll think about it some more, and the time might come. We'll see. And I've seen people come here because of invitation, personal invitation, and it's great. It's really good for us too. Good for them, good for us. Okay, so let's move on to special thank yous. Talking about the widow's two mites, just those little things that you might not feel like they count, but they do count. And you'll know that they count because if they don't happen, everyone notices. Okay? So on a typical average Sunday, you come here to church, I'm usually front and center. Everyone's looking at me. But there's so many things that go on that if they did not happen, then we would not have church. Like our accompanist, Gail, Greg, Neil, Elaine, and now Kent Cooper, right? If no one shows up to do music, that's a huge problem. We can't do church without music. So we have a lot of gratitude for them. Also, Derek and John doing the sound tech. There's a lot of people that we serve online thanks to them. And you're able to hear well thanks to them as well. We have ushers who bring the offertory up, who greet people, open doors, and so on. Ray, now Ernie, and also now Ned Osplund. No, not Ned. Yeah, Ned. Ned Osplund has signed up, and, if the usher didn't show up, what would happen? Everyone would be scratching their heads, looking around. Flowers, people notice when flowers don't show up, which never happens. All right. Refreshments, greeters, these are all small jobs, but they are huge because they make a big part to the overall experience here in the church. Church wouldn't be the same without the things that you do, not to mention volunteers on the board, on Pastors Council, volunteers who help do the property out there, mowing the grass. We have the gardening crew who do a lot of work in the gardens outside. So many of you come together to make things happen that I could not possibly do at all by myself. It's all about you. So thank you very much for being the church and keeping things moving. However, at this point, I would like to give a very special thank you. Just take a look at the chairs in the chapel here in a moment. We have new armchairs, right, that are spread throughout the room here. So this was a project that we started about a year ago. We wanted to put armchairs here in the chapel, and we looked at it. The board did some research. Beth contacted the company that made these existing chairs to see if they have a lineup of armchairs that would match the ones we have here, or at least retrofit the ones we have. And they got back and says, yes, we can do that. We can retrofit your chairs, but to do about 8 of them would cost over $5,000. And so that's like, no, thank you. But at the same time, they gave us a model of what these chairs should look like with armrests. So that basically gave us an idea, an example to follow. Ken then had offered himself and his services to put the armrest on. So he took this picture, he took home a chair, and then he worked up on his own wood shop with his own materials, all the armrests that you see here, and he had fastened them on himself as well. and then brought them back. So now we have, I think, close to 16 armchairs here when we're only looking for 8 at a fraction of the cost. And that's huge. And these are good quality armrests. I mean, you can see for yourself, they're strong, they're sturdy, they're attractive, they blend in well with the rest of the chairs. It's phenomenal work. So we are definitely grateful for your work, Ken. So the board wants to thank you.
We had a very tiny picture from the brochure.
That's a little mite.
That's as close as we could match it. And I will say one thing, it worked out that the first can of wood stain that I opened was pretty darn close to these chairs.
Wow.
They're wonderful.
Yeah.
But I did a few, and it took a little fooling around. We did a couple of trial runs. To do a chair, you have to sit in the chair and see how it feels. So these, thanks to Elaine for being, she can sit.
She was the sitter.
She modeled the chairs, the angles, and whatever. I was glad to do it.
Very good. But again, thank you very much, Ken. Phenomenal work. Okay, so we are all just about done. I'm going to give you some announcements. First, I'd like to call up Derek. He's going to give a few words on contributions.
You've heard Ken Quinlan gave his report. We don't pay, as a board member, we do a lot of the financial stuff. We don't pay people to clean these buildings, all these volunteer things that Ryan was talking about. We don't pay people to take care of our property, whether it's mowing the lawn. Oh, did Bruce quit that too? or do all the weeding that happens. We have people like Ken who puts arms on a bunch of our chairs to save us money. We have a bunch of volunteers that hand make all these crafts that we sell at a craft fair. There are so many things that our volunteers do to save this church a lot of money. Unfortunately, there are things that do require money that we can't just volunteer for. There are things like our insurance is going up. I can tell you about that. So that needs a little bit more money, and Ken talked about some of the shortfalls we have in this last budget quarter. And again, so as a board member, if you are able to give a little more in the offertory or send a little bit more in to Ken and Sig, that would be really helpful. So on the month-by-month basis, we can keep afloat on all the things that keep the building running, not just all the work that you folks do for us. So thank you very much for all that. And again, if you're able to contribute just a little bit more, that would be very helpful. Thank you.
Thank you, Ken. Okay, so then just wrap things up, some announcements. You can grab one of these on your way out as usual. I'm just going to give you a heads up on things coming up in this month, next month, November. So next week on the 3rd, we have our next chosen class. You're all welcome to come to that. We'll be watching episode number 2 from season 3, which is called 2 by 2. It's been a great series so far. Everyone's enjoyed it, and so you're definitely welcome to come. We'll watch an episode and then discuss it afterwards. Then on the following weekend, on November 9th, we have our work party. Begins at 8:30. So just come anytime after 8:30 or on 8:30, whenever works for you. Bring helpers, bring tools, come and stay for as long as you want. We'll have all sorts of things to do inside and outside the building.
In case it rains.
And yeah, in case it rains. Yeah, that'll be the day that it rains after all these years.
Well, if it does, we'll be cheering.
We'll be cheering, yes. So yes, please come November 9th, and lunch will be provided as well. And then on the following Sunday, November 17th, is our next chosen class. So we'll be watching episode 3, season 3. And then at the end of the month, we have our Thanksgiving Day service on the 28th, Thursday at 10 a.m. Bring canned goods for donation. Yes?
I have a question about the chosen class.
Yes?
Last time, the television monitor did not work.
Right.
Is it still dead?
I have not checked it out yet, but that's something we're going to have to look at.
So what I'd like to do is ask you to please check it out. And if it's dead, then we need to ask if anyone's replacing their full large screen television, because the monitors we have were donated from people who have migrated to other screens. So if you have something that's about that big and you don't want it, don't scrap it if it works.
Thank you, Ken. Yes, good reminder. Yes, give us your TVs. Go ahead.
There was a scheduled, the last Songs of Christmas meeting was scheduled for the 17th.
Ooh, okay.
And
Well,
chosen class that.
yes, I can move things around. So let's keep your meeting then. So when you see chosen class on the 17th, replace it with Songs of Christmas meeting. Anything else? All right, well, I'll take motions to adjourn.